All systems go. Cleared for takeoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo. We're back, the Week 6 edition of the main Slate DFS show here on the Mail Media Network. Joined, as always, by my guys, Hoop and Title. Going to get right to it, break everything down for you guys. As always, we'll go game by game, talk about if there's any weather. We'll go through some correlations, some mini stacks, some secondaries, who we're stacking. We'll show off a little tidbit of the SHIPIT Nation stack rankings. People always like those. Looking to give away $300 to $400. If you're joining us for the first time, want to know how that works, we give away $100 the faster we get the engagement going. So we're looking for the fastest 200 likes this week. I did say 200 because the 100 should happen quickly. After that, we give away $100 to a SHIPIT Nation member. And then at the end, we give away another $100 to somebody else random, like the first one, but possibly $200 if we get to 500 likes. So smash that like button on the way in. We'll throw up the YouTube channel subscription. So this channel, got to be subscribed to ask your questions. At SHIPIT Nation on YouTube. You can go there as well. Subscribe. When we get to 4,000 members, we'll be giving away a 6-month bundle to the site. And then lastly, one of our members, Kevlar87, Joe, great dude, is giving away 2 monthly memberships to SHIPIT Nation today. So Hoop and Title will pick those out as we go throughout. So somebody completely random will be able to win those. Hoop, bring you in. I'm not sure what thesis you're going to sell us on this week on why you're winning the Millie Maker, but we've exhausted some other options. Maybe we'll find one. How you doing, man? What's going on? How's the excitement level for Week 6?
Yeah, I'm excited. I don't know, I'm feeling a little rough this morning, and a lot of times, that has resulted in good things. So, I hung out with our boy G Ryzen last night, and if you guys know G Ryzen from the SHIPIT Nation team over here, G Ryzen goes hard on all levels, not only drinking, but he partakes in a lot of different things, and obviously can't keep up. Feeling a little bit rough this morning, so the hungover narrative is going to come into play today, where you're just like, you know what, you don't give a fuck. You're going out there, you're getting the job done. That's my mentality today, and I do like the slate, though, man. I really do like the slate. A lot of different ways to go. The running back position I think is very key because there's just so many good plays at running back, which we'll talk about, values. Some potential spends even at the position. So really like this slate. And as always, I think we're going to, find the path to the top. I mean, it's been very close. I mean, we always talk about it. You can kind of feel the buildup sometimes to that big hit. And I've been, very close the last couple of weeks. And I think this is it today, boys.
There it is, Title. You think about Hoop, you think about the GOAT. You think about the Hoop GOAT is the MJ. They're talking about the MJ flu game. I don't know if it works for the hangover game, but we'll see how things go throughout.
We'll find out.
Title, what's going on, man? How you doing on this Sunday morning?
Yeah, couldn't be better. As always, best day. As long as the Wi-Fi holds the whole show, I will be doing just fine. Don't say it all that. I think yours is good. The wind and all that is past you. I don't know, man. This monthly Airbnb has me sketching every time I hop on the show. But yeah, 11 games. Total is very, very low. Running back position absolutely loaded. I think to summarize the slate, that's how I'd say it right now. But yeah, multiple ways to go. It's fun as always. $1 million up top. I mean, what's better than free money Sunday?
Yeah, if you watch the previous show, Mayo hopped on, did a little get together this morning. The Q&A. He's always really angry in the mornings, and I love it. People said, "Where's Cam?" And he's like, do they live in my basement? And this guy, no. Kevin says, "Tambo, come out from the spare room." Yeah, I brought my whole studio over to Mayo's house, but I should note that I will be at Mayo's house. I'm going to go there today and watch the games. We'll be on live tonight. I believe it's 7:15 Eastern. I have to double check the docket. I'll be there all day anyway. Cust is going to be eating chicken wings. Should see how that goes after we watched him eat corn on the cob like a whatever. It was like it was a corn dog like corn on the cob. Just absolutely insane stuff as expected for Cust. But I really love this slate. We're going to start talking about it. We're going to give away that $100 soon, almost at 100 likes. So do us a favor there. Somebody said a hundo from Tambo. No, trying to give away 4 hundo. Actually, that's what we're trying to do today. So smash it early and often. Get your kids' iPads out of their hands. We talk about it all the time. Granny's phone off the couch. You don't need that. Get in there. Smash the like. Let's get it rolling. I'm calling my shot today, Hoop. I said it at the top of the pre-show. I love this slate. It's going to be a big day for Tambo. I can tell you that much. It's been slow starting. Got a King of the Beach ticket, King of the Desert ticket, things like that. I'm looking to get something a lot bigger today. So I'm excited for this one. First thoughts from you, Hoop, grand scheme overview, as we always do before we go game by game. How are you seeing some of the stuff shake out from a DFS perspective?
At the quarterback position, I think a lot of people save money, which there's a ton of options. That's one thing that stands out. Talked about it a little bit. I think like a guy like Jalen Hurts, could come in criminally under-owned, and it's a relatively good spot for him. The Jets are missing some defenders. That's one thing at the quarterback position that stands out. And then kind of the same thing at the running back. We have so many really good plays, really cheap guys, mid-tier guys. And then I got Christian McCaffrey just staring me in the face at like 5 to 6% ownership, and even lower on like FanDuel where he's 10-3. And then wide receivers. I mean, so many good plays at wide receiver too. I mean, the slate's pretty damn loaded. And then you get to like tight end, and you're like, man, who the fuck do I want to play here? Like, this position sucks. So those are my quick thoughts, position by position. Obviously, we'll go game by game and see what we can sort out. But that's kind of how I'm, viewing the slate. Very, 40,000 miles away, just looking down type thing.
Yeah, I love that. The first look is always good from that perspective. Title, do you see anything different? I mean, obviously, we're going to talk through it when we get to the games, but like Mostert's situation is shaping it up at running back, which then behind him, though, there's a ton of options that people can go to where they're trying to choose from Hubbard versus Foreman, or who else do you plug in? Is it going to be a Mixon, a Bijan, a Kamara, something like that? What's your first thoughts on this slate rolling in?
Yeah, the running back position, I think you're most definitely going to have to get right. The strongest running back week we've had by far, and it's the first week we've really had guys in the 4K range that are starting running backs, like Hoop talking McCaffrey. No one's going to go there because the mid-range, there's Mixon, there's Mostert, Kamara, there's good options there. Then you have 4.3K Chuba Hubbard with no Miles Sanders going to get the start. Then Deontay Foreman the Bears are complete mess. Herbert's on the IR. They're calling guys up, but it sounds like Foreman will get majority of the work. However, I'm much more confident in Hubbard, which is ownership reflects that. I think Hubbard 2-3 times higher owned than Foreman. But yeah, initial thoughts is running back, you can save a lot of money. Quarterback, I think people save money. Tight end, people always save money. So the Jamar Chase of the world, I think there's certain spend ups that will be pretty concentrated. And the wide receiver room is a good one to get different, is how I see it.
Yeah, I'm going to swap it out. While we're waiting to get to 150 likes quick to kick things off and give away the first $100, I'm going to pop this up here first because, Hoop, you talked about it and the chat mentioned it. But just to show quickly, because it's the sponsor of our show. On Sundays, we are on the Mayo Media Network. You can use code MAYO over at SHIPIT Nation. I'll show that in a second. But we have the DVP rankings. And funny enough, you talked about Hurts and tight end being a wasteland. Two things you can put together in our simple view. We do have the advanced data when you go to DVP, and you can really dive deep. But just a quick one, Hoop. The Jets, horrible against the tight end. Worst in the league right now through 5 weeks. There's your Dallas Goedert play. He's a very fair price. He's a pivot off of Ingram. I like Ingram. I know some of you guys do too, but I'm just saying if you want to get different there, that's an option you can go to. If you go Hurts and use Goddard there, you could just get away from it completely and be different there. As I mentioned, if you guys haven't checked it already, go to shipitnation.com. You just click join the nation. Even if you just want to join for a month, gets you into the Discord. You go down to have a coupon. You type in Mayo, MAYO. Very simple. Gets you 10% off, and then it locks that in for life. You might want to do that because with NBA on the horizon, NHL already on the go, NBA, there's going to be some crazy tools, ceiling rankings, correlation sheets, and then we have projections and ownership that I don't know enough people look into this stuff, but we talked about it before. When you have different projections for NBA, and I know this is a football show, but we're marketing, we're showing you this stuff, you will get scores like this where you're beating Hibbs, one of the best players in the world in NBA, with up there with the guys like Petty Theft and some of these others. Hishbu, one of literally the best DFS players in the entire world, just won the MLB Live Final, the fantasy baseball world championship on DraftKings. Chipotle Addict and my boy Todd, shout out Todd, just won the fantasy golf world championship and has won tons of other tournaments. I topped this using these projections. So if you guys want better or different projections, I call them better because it's simple. The same projections that everybody uses don't win every night. And that's really what it comes down to. So you want something that's different. You want to be able to find your way around and have something different that you can go against the competition with. This is the way to do it. Hoop, about to hit 150 likes. Do you have a random winner for us before we get to these games?
Sure do. And it's going to be our guy, Renegade. Not only is the content on point, but the response on questions and concerns are prompt. Become a member now. It's a good promotional piece. We like hearing that. And the one thing that stands out here to me, not only is the content on point, but it's early on point. Like we get it out early so you guys can digest it. You're not sitting around waiting, having to refresh, saying, hey, where's the content for today's slate? We get it up early with understanding that, there can be some changes, and those are noted and highlighted. So appreciate that comment, and I agree with them. Should become a member.
Yeah, 100% agree. Title, I'll go to you. So Renegade, you can reach out, by the way, info@shipitnation.com. Set this up. You can screenshot or whatever, get it over to us. We'll get you all set up there. Title, let's start off with this first game because it was funny. The chat just saw the DVV rankings, and we're going to Washington at Atlanta, and they said Atlanta gives it up to the tight end as well. Yeah, they were the second worst team against the tight end on the chart that we just showed on our site, and that would talk about some Logan Thomas here. But give me your thoughts on this game, Washington and Atlanta, as we dive in.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like I said, a lot of these totals, like we're going to talk about, they're not very high to start. So you look at two pretty bad teams, I guess. Ritter's not fun to play. I'm not playing Ritter by any means, but I think it's more appealing on a slate like this than it would have been a couple slates ago. So both teams, it's a low total, about 42, but both teams applied for about 20. We're in a dome. Like I said, there's no chance I'm playing Desmond Ritter. However, the Kyle Pitts, the Jonnu Smiths of the world, I'm interested at that weak tight end position on the other side as well. You mentioned Logan Thomas at 3.5. All of those guys, they're going to be pretty low owned. People are going to go the Ingrams of the world. I think Ertz will probably be a little more popular in this range. I mean, Pitts showed last week. He finally, one of his best games he's had. Maybe that gets him going. Jonnu Smith has been good for them as well. Logan Thomas. So the tight ends are my favorite plays in this game, just at a really weak position. Bijan just feels expensive. And I just wish he got all the work, or 80-20, 75-25. I don't think I'll really get to Bijan as a spend up. The running back position is too good down below. Terry McLaurin, I got some interest there. That's a good price at 5.5, mainly just the price play. And I think Howell, no chance I'm getting the Ritter side, but I think a Sam Howell with the Logan Thomas or a Scary Terry, something like that, just go really cheap with the stack. Then you could play like a Cooper Kupp, Tyreek. You can do different things with your build. And Sam Howell does have the rushing upside. So, yeah, the tight ends are my favorite play. Sam Howell, I'll have a little bit, and then Terry McLaurin just for the price.
Yeah, I like that call. I like the skinny stack like you just talked about. If you did, I couldn't get enough of this, but I did put it in the slate plan. One of the ones that I was on as a value play is if you do just Howell and Thomas. Thomas does his job. Howell can do a little bit more. You can get like a Bijan on the other side for the flop leg if you want him to speed the game up. Maybe you get it that way, or you could get, because he failed everybody last week, or you could go to Drake London. If you go back to the DVP rankings there on our site, that's the spot that they get beat up, is against the wide receiver one. Of course, it takes quarterback to get him the ball. Worked out okay last week. Ritter finally had a good week, but like you said, I can't really get to that side. Hoop, did you have any other thoughts on this one? Washington, Atlanta. I like what Title said with the tight ends there.
That's all it is for me, the tight ends in this game. I don't really see myself getting much exposure outside of the tight ends. Logan Thomas, Pitts, and Jonnu Smith, I think, are all really solid plays at a weak position. Bijan Robinson, I think, better play on FanDuel. The price tag's a little bit better over there. The 7.2 on DK is tough to get to. 7.6 on FanDuel, I think, is a little more reasonable. So maybe a little bit of him, but I just don't necessarily love the play when we have just so many guys in really good spots that can count on for almost all the work. And then McCaffrey up top, low owned. So just going to be these tight ends. And I think they're all pretty solid plays, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm going to stay with you here in a second, but bring up our guy Smarty. First of all, I said early content is awesome. That's part of the plan at SHIPIT Nation. Two things that we really focus on. One is obviously the most important is the price. So you can pay less for the content, play more DFS contests, and then continuing to bring you, like Hoop says, continue to improve and add on for what you get for that money. So I will say that. The second piece, though, is he talks about is the early content. That's what everybody's looking for. Like, you need to have a way to get projections, ownership updates. You need to be able to get to see what other people are doing, get the ideas in the Discord. The community's going around the clock. I'm waking up at 7 a.m. Eastern or whatever, 6 a.m. Eastern, I guess, 7 Atlantic time here. And it's like people are already in the Discord talking about this London game. So that's what you want. That's what you get. I will say on the other side, this is if you have these types of feelings, our guy Smarty, winning everybody the college football money, by the way, too, not an official sport we offer, but I saw like $6,000 in one win yesterday for somebody using his content in there that he just freely throws up into the Discord. But I just think there's too many running backs for that. So it's tough for me to get to a guy like Algier and some of these other dudes we'll talk about when we get to those games. Go ahead, Hoop.
No, I was just backing up your point about the college football here, Chris Carter.
Oh, yeah. It's been great. For sure. Anytime you pull it up, I'm always thinking you're going to comment on that, but I got something you might want to comment on.
You like to talk, man. I serve you up with more things to talk about.
Yeah, there's more I could pull up. I'm going to let you keep it going here. Indy Jacks. This is definitely looking like a spot you could win some money today, or it could be the spot that everybody moves to and ends up killing us. But I will be finding out with my money what's going to happen here personally. So what's your thoughts on this one, Hoop? We got Indy, Jacksonville, 44 total, 4.5 favorite for the Jags at home. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty appealing game. We have a lot of things here that we look for in DFS. We have injuries, we have cheap plays. We have, guys that are, looking to come in potentially lower owned maybe than they should be. So it has everything you want in a game. The total is only sitting at 43, but like we said in the opening, there's just not a lot of high total games that we can go to today. There's not a lot. Is there anything? I mean, the biggest one is 47.5 in a couple spots. So this isn't far off the top games on the slate in terms of the total. We have Gardner Minshew in obviously over Richardson, which is a boost for the skill position players. Definitely. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs has looked phenomenal. You have some cheap tight ends on the Colts side, and then you have obviously Minshew. It's only $5K on DraftKings. This isn't just like a backup quarterback that's going to go out there and they're going to game manage the hell out of him. Like, this guy has proven like he can move the ball in the NFL. So I'm very interested in this side. Minshew at $5K, Pittman, Downs, and then you can mix in these cheap tight ends if you want. Granson, Ogletree, totally fine playing either of those guys at a low price tag at the tight end position, which is tough. And then you go to the Jaguars side and you have plays and you have the injury, no Zay Jones, and it doesn't seem like a big deal, but they're a pretty consolidated offense without him. I mean, it's Calvin Ridley, it's Kirk, it's Ingram. Now, Kirk and Ingram will for sure get some ownership today. There's no doubt the price tags are just wrong for this situation. Kirk at 5.4 on DK and Evan Ingram at 4.5 at a very tough tight end position. A lot of people will go there. Ingram's had 8 targets in 4 straight games, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets there again today. So those guys will get some ownership. But then you look at Calvin Ridley, 6.7K. A lot of people, if they go to Jacksonville, they're just going to Kirk and going to Ingram in the passing game. I like getting some exposure to Ridley, and then you can even throw in Jamal Agnew as a cheap punt at 3K. We have Travis Etienne, who looked phenomenal in the London game last week, kind of went off. So a lot of people may have missed that, but I mean, he had a monster game against the Bills. Just wanted to pull up the numbers real quick on him. Yeah, 26 carries, 136 yards, 4 catches, 50 yards, so like 180 total yards, 2 touchdowns, just nuked the entire slate for that showdown slate. But maybe people kind of overlook that a little bit. He's 7.1K, 7.7 on FanDuel, good price tag. And then, man, Trevor Lawrence, I think I've played him every single week so far on the main slate, and fuck, man, it hasn't worked out. But I just have to go back to him today because I'm in on this game. So I'm going to have some Lawrence. He probably ends up with 15 fantasy points. He's like the master of 15 fantasy points. But I will be playing him today in the hopes that he finally goes up. But this is a very appealing game. A lot of plays, quarterbacks, wide receivers plays, tight end plays. Like, this is a very, very good game today.
I want to clip that from that part you just said. Fuck, man, Trevor Lawrence. We just need to take out his name. We'll insert a bunch of names that I keep trying to play this guy and it doesn't work. Yeah. I can do that for a lot of things this season.
The fuck man play of the day.
Yeah, that might be what it has to be. So I want to note a couple of things. RJ says NFL education was awesome, and Title's cash scores have been off the chain. That's one part for sure. Yeah. If you're playing cash games or you're trying to build a bankroll just in general, that's key. He's noting the course that we did for NFL. This is still available. Any member that signs up gets this for free. 4 hours is the edit. Like, Hoop and I spent a lot of time, 2 to 3 days, internet going in and out to make sure this was the best course that you guys could have to get better at NFL DFS. And we doubled down on it. So we actually added Title into the mix. If you guys are getting ready for NBA and you're thinking of signing up, and this feels like a good mojo, something you want to be a part of, get in now, use promo code Mayo, get in the Discord. You get these courses for free on top of all the other content that we already talked about. So I think that's a key component. The chat talks about Nades and the NHL stuff. NHL content has been on fire. Nades crushed it with the slate plans. Last night, somebody won huge in NHL too. And it's funny, I say somebody with this, we get chirped on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it all the time. Oh, only one guy won. Where's everybody else? Like that's the point. You're not trying to win tournaments with everyone together. We have lots of nights where lots of people win in different tournaments and all come together, but it should be where one person wins, not watching a bunch of other people win and start winning for yourself. Build your own process, get your own plays in there, use it as a resource and a community to help you get better at the game. So check that out. Our guy Go Collect, always appreciate your support. We're going to be talking about it when we get to those games. And now, Title, I'll get to you on this game. Your thoughts, because our guy Andre, appreciate your support. As always, good to see you, man. But Minshew revenge, too. Don't forget about that. Going back up against the Jags here. So mania, madness, whatever you want to call it, magic. What are you doing with this game, Title?
Yeah, I was hoping. So my initial run, I was hoping to have more Trevor Lawrence than I got because, like, I like ETN a lot. I like Ingram. I like Kirk's way too cheap. Ridley's price, he's the guy that'll be, I think, the lowest owned of the four, and they're so concentrated. I wouldn't say Jones is out. That's why these guys grade out even better, and we're not talking about them. But really no interest outside of, Ingram, Kirk, Ridley, ETN. With the prices and everything, though, like, I love ETN. I mean, man, he's getting all the work. You're paying up a little more at running back than some other people will. He's not going to be low owned by any means, but he got there. If he did that on the main slate last week, I think he's even probably higher owned this week with people seeing it. But yeah, they have like third, fourth. The Dogs. They have like the third, fourth highest team total on the slates. They're going to move the football. They're in the dome. I think Minshew can move the ball too. Pittman and Downs definitely get a boost, but they're my only two interests on that side. Like JT and Moss, who knows how that split's going to go. So yeah, it's just Pittman, and Pittman is an upgrade with Minshew from Richardson. Downs has been playing really well. This keeps going. I got to mute myself quick. As far as
at least the connection's holding strong, man. We'll take the barking dog over the down connection.
Yeah, but I'm home alone right now, so it's a lot of duty. But yes, as long as you guys can hear me. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys say is the Lawrence side. I'm not getting to him as much as I wish. He's in that range with Stafford, and Burrow is going to be higher owned and to pair him with. But man, I just don't know if he's got that 30, 35 point upside that I really do want at that price. So I guess I'll have you guys talk. But how I rank him, it's ETN, Ingram, just because of the price, 4 games in a row with 8 targets, or the price in the position, 4 games in a row with 8 targets, and then it'd be Kirk and Ridley. But I love ETN in this spot, and want your thoughts on if I should bump Lawrence or not.
I'm not. I'm bumping the Minshew side, not because of the revenge. I actually just think I think he's the best backup in the NFL. I think it's a spot where the plays make sense. It becomes an overload spot almost, to Hoop's point, where in the past, like we said, that week of the Detroit, where now we're finally bringing it up, Hoop, back to you winning the Millie. But when that week happened, it's kind of like this. Like Kirk is getting thrown in, Downs is getting thrown in, Ingram's getting thrown in, Ridley's a possibility, but people are on ETN. People are mentioning Pittman as a play, and it's like it feels like people are, well, there's ownership there. It's like, is it enough? And I definitely think it's a spot you can overload. I'm overloading on the Minshew side, just savings and cost. You can use ETN to speed that game up. He got a ton of work, and I don't even know if everybody knows it because it was a London game last week, and he's been getting it, but he carried over. So I think that is a key component. And Title, you've been around a while. I don't know if you were listening to like Fantasy Football Edge back in the day with like Smizzle. It was CSU Ram and Levitan, but the dog barking is actually a good thing. That was like the play that smashes and hits, and it was during Minshew, and it was Pittman and Downs, and you were mentioning the Indy side, so I'm feeling good, even better about that, because that's a big part of my plan this week, and I definitely love that call. So
do you agree that ETN's ownership would be higher if it was main slate instead of London last week? And
yes,
you agree? And you like the Minshew side? Is there anyone but Downs or Pittman's you're even mixing in?
Well, I always like Granson, so I have a little
you talked about him week 1
but
too.
The problem is, like, who mentioned Granson and Ogletree, but Mo Alley Cox actually came back this week as well, so it does muddy it up over there. But I still think that Minshew was doing stuff with Granson, and I think sometimes that can just leak over. And again, I'm only using him in a game stack like this, where I'm setting it up that way. So I'm not using Granson as a one-off. He's right there, priced around some of those other guys. So I don't think that's the spot. I like ETN that you mentioned. I'm not messing with those indie backs. There's too many backs on this slate. I think, Hoop, you mentioned Agnew. I didn't actually get to him, but I think that's kind of interesting because he is just 3K. So if he makes it all work for you, I have a little worry with Kirk in the higher dollar, smaller field stuff, because it's going to get increased even more. Like now he's getting up to 35% plus probably in those spots. So you could sub in a Ridley, but honestly at 5,400, he also doesn't have to do much. And it is an injury spot. So one thing I mentioned in the slate plan last thought was Ingram and Downs as opposed to Kirk and Downs. I think Kirk and Downs becomes a much more popular secondary stack when people just want a piece of this game because it just fits. I think you can go with Ingram there and that. And again, not like Ingram's going to be low owned, just saying it's a little bit different probably as a secondary stack than the Kirk side. Title, do you have anything else with that one you had questions on or anything else you wanted to add based on hearing some of that stuff?
Yeah, I think I don't plan on upping my Trevor Lawrence exposure as much, but that's the one that feels like later tonight if he buries me, because he's 6'5", like Stafford's going to be more popular. Burrow's going to be more popular. His weapons are going to be popular. So it's kind of what Hoop did last week with the Lions. A lot of them were chalky. Goff was like 3% owned. So he just threw the quarterback in there. Obviously the right game environment and stuff didn't play out, but that's the case that I was trying to, if I did Lawrence, it's because I liked all the other Jags. Why not?
And that's a good point, and I think that's really good strategy and something that people kind of overlook. And definitely not sitting here trying to toot my own horn, but like in a situation where you're playing 3 or 4 pass catchers at a heavy rate, like I think more times than not you should just include the quarterback, even if you don't like them, especially if they're coming in at low owned. I mean, it just makes sense. You're banking on this offense going off. You're banking on the pass catchers going off. How do the pass catchers go off? Well, there's got to be a guy that's throwing them the football. So
the only devil's advocate is like they're all short passes, like the Kirk 6 yard,
correct,
PPR wraps up, and
but if that is the case, those guys most likely aren't going to be out. Yes, they can, but on a full slate, it's harder to get there with just the short passes and stuff. So they're not going to get there either way potentially. But I thought last week there's a good example of that. Everyone that were playing all those Lions pass catchers. Goff's coming in at 2 or 3% owned. Like you just play him. I think it's the same situation with Trevor Lawrence today. And I'm glad you kind of brought this all together. I know we're talking about this game for a while, but a lot of ownerships here. I don't necessarily love Trevor Lawrence. He's the master of 15. Like he's like a 15 fantasy point guy. But man, like if I'm playing all these pass catchers, I'm going to play some Trevor Lawrence. And he was not a guy that I initially planned on playing today, but I think I'm going to for that reason.
Yeah, I'll add to that too, because I think it's all coming together now in this thought process. And this is why I do, because I'm playing so much Minshew, and I always disclose this in the slate plan. Lawrence made like my second tier of after my main 4 guys, but I'm not bumping him to Title's point because of this. But one quick note, this happens every week. It's just a strategy / tilter's paradise type thing. But here's what happens. Lawrence gets 3 touchdowns. 2 of them go to Ridley. 1 of them goes to Ingram, and Downs gets there as the value play on the other side. And people blow up on social media like, oh, of course the chalk losers get there. It's like, no, Lawrence came in at like 6%. Ridley wasn't owned at all compared to Kirk. Yes, Ingram was owned. Yes, Downs was owned, but you put it together and that's how it hit. And really it's not who you play, it's how you play them. That's a prime example of that. The thing about it on the other side for me, and we'll move on, was the Minshew side, because he's so cheap. If he gets 2 touchdowns, he could run a little bit too, but if he gets 2 touchdowns, high completion rates and stuff like that, if it's Downs and Pittman that get those, that's probably how it goes. If you're playing Ridley today, it's an amazing price as in a bag at 6,700. You're like, damn, that's actually a pretty good price. But if he ceilings out, almost like Jamar Chase last week, if he gets 2 touchdowns, you're going to want to have Lawrence, because it's likely Lawrence does other stuff. He probably has 300 yards, all that. So it's all how you think about that when you're building it out from that perspective. Hoop, I'll go back to you, man. We got San Francisco, Cleveland. Might be the first game to talk about a little weather, so maybe start there. And then it doesn't look like anybody can get to CMC on this slate at 9,500, or is there even need to when you have all those other options? But I will just point that out before you go into the situation that you're going to talk about this game here.
Yeah, it looks like, let me just get the most updated. It looks like 15 to 20-ish mile-an-hour winds, and then gusts into the 30s. We've seen this. There's just a showdown game where we had very similar setup, and I think it was the last one, right, where the kicker ended up being like kind of the opposite. Like that. Oh, God. So it was that slate. So downgrade the kickers and all that. Blah blah. Obviously, we don't have to play kickers today, but a lot of times weather is overblown for the most part. Well, I guess that's one of those. What's that? Overblown weather. It's
I used that one last week. It's a good one though. I think it's a little overblown. And I said, what ended up happening? Butker ended up breaking the slate.
Yeah, he broke the
impossible wind to kick field goals and stuff, of course, right?
Yeah, so this one's got the same thing, 15 to 20, gusts around 30. I mean, it's already a low total game. I mean, it's sitting at 35.5. And Cleveland's team total is sitting at 13, so they're not even projected to score 2 total touchdowns. They're sitting projected 13 actual points. That's very rare. 49ers are just that good, man. I mean, I think they're the best team in the NFL. I think they're going to be fine winning like an ugly type game today on the road in Cleveland with bad weather, and that's basically what Vegas is kind of leading you to. Their team total is only sitting at 22. If they want to go out and score more, I'm sure they probably can. But I think they're fine taking an ugly win and getting out of here. Their defense is in a phenomenal spot going up against PJ Walker. You got to spend for them, but a lot of people like spending down at defense. So, defense for sure. And then, kind of talked about it, Christian McCaffrey, no one's going to pay that price tag. He's 10-3 on FanDuel. He's 9-5 on DK, single-digit ownership for the best running back in the NFL at this point, fantasy-wise, the best fantasy player in the NFL at this point in the season. Easy to get overweight. I'm going to take some shots at him, the defense. Passing game, I love Purdy. I like these other guys. I just don't think this is the right spot for those guys. And then Cleveland's just a complete fade. I'm not playing anyone on that side. So pretty clear McCaffrey and 49ers defense here today.
Yeah, 49ers D, you can get there. Jack, just so you know, appreciate it. He said, I just joined. So wondering, we make it easy here for you too. These are guidelines. We want you to use the stack rankings, the DVP rankings, the projections, all that to help build your own process and build your stuff up. But we want this guideline for people that are limited on time. I saw earlier, Alan said he was sitting down with his son to watch this show. We appreciate it, Alan, and take his iPad and press the like button on it while you're there. But to answer Jack's question, it'll say at the top, it says Hoop and what site it's for, DK. When you go to the Slate plan, it says Tambo, DK, Hamwich, FanDuel. We put people in the position to help you be successful because we put people that actually play and specialize on those sites or in those formats. That's why Title, the king of cash, is on the cash chart. And the chat will tell you he's been absolutely crushing it. We put everyone in a place to be successful for themselves and to help our members. So that's a key component as well. I put it up here, almost 200 likes. We might have crossed it by now. Yeah, we did, 205. I really feel like we're going to get to the double down $200 random giveaway at the end. I'm feeling the good flow. We got about an hour left. We can get to 500. There's almost 500 watching now. That will pick up as it goes on. So, shout out to our guy Tweezy. He's in the building. CMC, that price is woo. Yeah, we're seeing about that, man. We got to see here. Title.
How was the game, by the way, Tweezy? Give us a little update.
Yeah, give us the lowdown on the game. Here's what I want to ask you, Title, because you follow this stuff for all kinds of things, betting and cash and things like that. But so I don't understand this. When we opened up this game this week,
I was waiting for you to say it.
3.5 point, and like Deshaun Watson moves the needle by 6 points over there. Like something does not make sense about this spot. But give me your thoughts on that, and then break down this game from your perspective. I thought that was a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was the craziest thing. My buddy Siggy, when he sent the thing minus 3.5, minus 188 money line on Monday, and you look, it's 10.5 and minus like 580 favorites. There's no way that it was all Deshaun Watson. I mean, that opener was just wrong. There's no other way around that. Maybe it should have been 5.5. Like
they used it as correction piece.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. There's no way he's 7.5 points better than PJ Walker or whatever. So yeah, that was very interesting for sure. That opening line. As far as this game in DFS, I hope it's the opposite as entertaining. Cause yeah, I mean, McCaffrey's so expensive. Like I get it for sure, but he can get you 30 and still that not even be enough at all with the nature of the slate. Debo, Ayuk, like they're going to run the football. The Browns can't move it. And then it's, 49ers D. Like if you want to spend all the way up for them, I think they're totally fine. We've seen Bills D and stuff get 31. If 49ers D gets 31 today, you're going to need them for sure. But it's defense, it's volatility. You're spending up. Like it's a game I'm not going to have much of it all. The defenses are my favorite, but yeah, maybe 10% or less on everybody is how I see this one. I hate this game.
Yeah, and you could definitely play. Again, the D is expensive, but you can get there. I want to do a shout out to our guy, Dwayne. He's the man. NYG fan 56 said, Tambo got me on a Hertz build after we were chatting. I'm bringing this up now because later we'll talk about it, but he gave me a tidbit for tonight. I'll talk about it on the Mayo show tonight at 7:15 Eastern. It's for the Sunday night football game. But the reason I thought about it is because we were talking about backup quarterbacks in Cleveland. And then also someone mentioned this. We got a Tucker versus Folk game, 6-3, 3 field goals so far. Maybe added another. Yeah, we just added another. It is now 9-3. The 23-yard Tucker field goal is good. So a real snoozer over there. I don't have much else to add on this game. Just going position by position quick. I think the defense, I was a little higher on McCaffrey on the Friday show with Mayo before like all this other stuff solidified. And at running back, it is just really tough to get to him. He will be lower owned. Ayuk was the one guy I wanted to mention. He made the tidbits this week. So did Ridley, by the way. Someone pointed out earlier. But Ayuk in this spot can get there at 6,200. It was something about the matchup and the defensive scheming and all that stuff. So that's really it for me, as Ayuk, the San Francisco D, and then a sprinkle of McCaffrey, but nowhere near the top end of my running back pool. Hoop, let's go to the next one. Your favorites, Seattle. You love the Seattle team, but let's go against them on the other side. We got Burrow, who looked a lot better last week, and people keep saying it. If he's healthy, $6,300, just way too cheap. And then you got only a $400 increase on Chase. We're not expecting 55 points again, but he can get 1 or 2 touchdowns and still come through. So give us your thoughts on Seattle Cincy here, 45-point total.
Yeah, I mean, DK just it's a bad price at 8.3. I mean, after last week we saw, he should have got bumped up. FanDuel did a much better job. He's in that 9K range. He's sitting at 8.3. He'll be very, very highly owned, and rightfully so. I mean, Burrow finally did the smart thing. He's done it a couple times this year, just pepper him, absolutely pepper him, and it makes sense. They use him in a lot of different ways. He's going to be very popular. Mixon, it's the same thing, man. Like, will he ever get there? The price is so good. The spot's good. I mean, I'm going to keep playing him and hope something happens just because the workload there. But, man, it's he can be a frustrating roster. Where it gets interesting, though, is the pieces outside of that. Like T. Higgins should be very low owned today. I have to imagine he's in pretty good health if they're returning him to the field today. But, the combination of him being injured and then just the last game that he played, just dropping passes, I mean, his ownership should be very low, but it's one of those situations. You're playing Burrow, I think you should definitely play some T. Higgins. He has slate breaking upside if he's, his head's right and he's 100% healthy. I think he's a very good low-owned option today, definitely single digits. I just think it's a good spot for the Bengals, to be honest. Like, I just think this is a spot where, they're going to get things rolling here. They're a good football team. They've looked very rough early on in the season, got the big win last week. I think they get another big win here today, so I don't love anything on the Seattle side. Geno Smith has a cheap price tag, but I just don't think I'm getting there. So this is a spot where I like the Bengals. I think they could blow out Seattle here. I'm not going to play much on the Seattle side, to be honest. It's like a turning point game, I think, for the Bengals, where people might realize, okay, yeah, this team is back and they're going to make a run here down the stretch. So nothing for me on the Seattle side. A lot of love for the Bengals though today.
I like that last comment too, because we saw the last 2 seasons. It was the Chiefs one season and the Bills another season, where both years people were like, oh, they're not what they used to be, and they both come back to crush in their own seasons. Yeah. And now maybe that's what we see out of these Bengals. I don't see anything with the weather with this one, like low winds, not anything special to worry about there. The total hasn't moved. And our guy Tweezy, the game was amazing. It was loud. Everyone was hyped up. We was booing Russ. It was a good day. Weather was okay. Did not help. Knocking beers back, but we got that W. I got paid in DFS. All in all, good vibes. Nice. No need for periods and formatting when you could just lay it all out there for us, Tweezy. Yeah. We appreciate it.
And the booing Russ that's easy, man. And you can tell everyone your boy right here said it first, because I've been shitting on him for 2 seasons now, and I've been spot on. He is, title. Cheeks. The definition, man. Definition of cheeks. There's a lot of guys that have now become the definition of cheeks. Yeah, just let's start adding the names. He's got to be right. He's got to be one of the first in line under cheeks.
Yeah. It's been tough.
Hoop's moving from a dictionary to an encyclopedia so we can get all the pictures in there, because it's starting to rack up, these guys. But season's moving along.
They're all true, though, man. I haven't been wrong on them. I've been right.
Dak, Najee. There's been a bunch.
Kyler, AJ Dillon.
Where have I been wrong? That's all I want. Show me the L, because I'm willing to take them. But
I'll think of one.
Title. I like this game, like everybody. I looked for a different play in this game, and I'll tell you what I found. You may not like this, but it is a good matchup in our DVP chart. Noah Fant at 3,000. I like Lockett better. Metcalf is playing like him. JSN, I know people are talking about him as the guy this week, that there's some DK Metcalf quotes out there about JSN's going to have a big game. The quote does say, though, if not this week, maybe next. So it's like, who knows what week it's actually going to be. But pay to get in early and find out if you want to. But I do think Fant, if you're just blowing a tight end spot, I talk about this all the time, in a game that I'm stacking up anyway, what's the way to get different with like a Burrow and Chase stack? Well, that's probably the way. So something like that. But what do you like within this game? There's talk in the chat about Mixon finally showing up as well after all the usage he's been getting.
Well, the first thing I just thought of, DK might have been doing a lot of talking this week. If he's talking about Fant, I think he's talking about Witherspoon locking down Chase and stuff. He's thinking a lot this week, but hopefully he doesn't break the slate. I'm not playing Metcalf. As far as fans, yeah, I guess I'll leave them to you. If he wins you all the money, I'll be happy for you, Tambo. Like, I just think of like the Logan Thomas, the Jonnu Smith, like the Kyle Pitts. I just prefer them, and it's all bad tight ends. Like, fall in the box, you can get there at the price. So going to be really
game
low.
Stack only too, by the way. Like within this game stack, I'm definitely not playing Noah Fant. The one-off, it would have to be like a mix and Fant for an interesting secondary stack, or a way where Burrow and Chase, we just know they're going to be popular enough, but for good reason, I think. And then, how do I make that stack different on the other side?
My guys Lockett. So yeah, very similar. You're saving money at a bad position. The price is still good for Lockett. The air yards are like, all the hidden numbers are still there. It just takes one game. Do I love it? Absolutely not. Like, it's more so you're playing Burrow, who I like Burrow, great price tag. You want to eat chalk with Chase, mix in all the usage. Like, those are the guys. And to get the different, your guy's Fant, my guy would be Lockett for the price. So outside of them, though, like, I can't. T. Higgins, man. I try to make it work on the 2 games. Like, he drops balls. He goes to the locker room. He's hurt. Like, I can't do him. I'd rather Tyler Boyd, and I don't think we really need it for the main slate anyway. So then it just comes down to Mixon and Chase, who get all the looks. Lockett is the run back there, and I guess you can throw Burrow in those stacks. But the more I think about it with Burrow, if I don't love Higgins, Boyd's fine. Like, I don't love Irv Smith. Do I just want a skinny, like, with a really chalk Chase? I don't know, man. So, yeah, I think I like Mixon and Chase more as skinny stacks, and I think Lockett is my only guy on Seattle that I'll be mixing in.
Yeah, I don't hate that. And then also, too, who mentioned it, but Higgins, like, no ownership on both sites. If you want to build like some hedge lineups or something where you're putting, like, I guess it would be, for me, probably like a Ridley mix of a Ridley, Devontae Smith, Waddle, Higgins. Like, you can mix all those guys in. I love building lineups like that, where it's just like you're throwing them in the $20 Millie Maker, the $18 World Championship qualifier, something like that, where if it hits, you get huge leverage. But I don't feel as comfortable about it in some of the other stuff there. I'm going to share quickly, and then we'll move on, because this is for the next game. But everyone always loves to see these stack rankings, right? And this is why I want to show it. If you guys don't know, same thing. You go to shipitnation.com. You can use promo code MAYO for 10% off. It's not just about the core plays and the player pools. Not. We have projections, ownership. We cover you for Showdown with projections, ownership. We have the DVP rankings we keep bringing up. But this is the stack rankings. And not going to give it all away, but we'll go to here. I think we can see that, right? And this is why I brought it up, because Hoop, I'm going to come to you on this one. We're New Orleans, Houston, and a couple interesting things. This has happened. Last week it was Arizona and Cincy that popped up here. This week we got the Colts Jags game, but we also have this game, only a 42.5 point total. And besides, we have the Cincy game. We got Arizona both up there again. Mind you, they don't play each other this week, but just to note it, Hoop, is you talked about this earlier about like how the totals aren't crazy on this slate. We know we're going to get to Miami next game. We know later we're going to get to Arizona and the Rams. There's going to be a bunch of other games that we speed up, but there's good games from those totals. And then there's fantasy point good games. And now with Dell out and situational stuff here, like you can play Stroud, Nico Collins, Robert Woods, pretty cheap. You could play Kamara on the other side. Like, that is very cheap for a 4-man stack that even with a 42.5, 43 point total we're seeing out there, you could still get after it. This is the current stack rankings. What's your thoughts on this one? New Orleans, Houston, just based on some of those thoughts.
Yeah, so for me, I look at this and it's more the individual pieces than actually stacking with the quarterbacks. And I get it, like Stroud has looked phenomenal, but man, there's so many guys in that range. Like it's a strong range today where he's priced, and he's got to beat a lot of guys in really good spots. And he's got to beat them straight up because the prices are so close. So I get it. Not going to be for me today, but I do like the individual pieces that go along with it. The one other problem I have with Stroud is no Tank Dell today, and Tank Dell has been one of his main guys. So that's definitely a downgrade. But again, I do like some of the individual pieces. Dameon Pierce at home, 5.1K. Don't hate that as a play. Like, should not get much ownership. Running back, we know there's a lot of plays today. He could go a little overlooked. Robert Woods at 3.8 without Tank Dell, I think is a fine value. Noah Brown, 3K flat. He's going to get more looks with Tank Dell out. And then Dalton Schultz is a cheap tight end. Fine with that. So I like all the pieces, but not going to get to Stroud. On the Saints side, Kamara I like. Michael Thomas's price tag at 4.9 I like. We talked about Kamara. I mean, I'm going to keep saying it. I mean, he just has such a high floor. They're indoors here today. That 14 target game, you know, he played like shit, got 80 total yards, and then gets 22 fantasy points or whatever it is. You know, no touchdown, 80 total yards, and 22 fantasy points. It's just a very dynamic situation. So I'll be in on Kamara, in on Michael Thomas, and that's it. So like 6 plays here. Kamara, Thomas, Pierce, Woods, Brown, and Schultz I like in this game.
Yeah, our guy Deacon, appreciate you. So if you're not signed up, you're absolutely doing it wrong. Hands down, the best in the business, both price, content, support staff. We aim for all that stuff. Efficiency, speed, accuracy, price, keeping it low so you can get in, get everything you need. But this is the one we review title on the review show on Mondays. Myself, Nades, and sometimes Tyler from Line Star joins us. We look at this. It's like you can build out your lineups. And like Hoop said, you don't have to play the Stroud stack if you don't want to, but if you want to put in like a Woods, or if it's he's not on here, but just you can go off the quarterback. This is just this value stack. You could play a Nico Collins or something like that and mix it in. Michael Thomas is cheap. If you see Tua not up the chart, obviously we're going to get to Mostert and it's a totally different reason. He's already a great play. I'm just saying, but you could go to that and fill in with some of these stacks, mix in these secondaries, and then use running backs on teams where their passing attack is not strong. You can get some really good lineups that way, and we've built them out on that review show quite a bit. Your thoughts on this same game here? What do you like with this one?
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with Hoop. I don't love the quarterbacks in the stacks, but on both sides, the individual pieces are skinny stacks. Without Tank Dell, brings in a lot of these Houston pieces. So this game reminds me of the first game, Atlanta-Washington, we talked about. Very similar team totals on both sides, similar total in a dome. Don't really love the quarterbacks as much, but viable pieces. I think this game's better. There's more viable pieces on each side. Again, the Texans side, I prefer more because you get Robert Woods or Nico Collins, really the only 2 guys I'd mess with. I wouldn't go a Mechie or something like that on a classic slate, but those guys going to get all the work. Someone might ask, is Lattimore going to shadow Nico Collins? Maybe, and I don't care really if so. He's going to be low owned. Would prefer Woods, though, and the price tag if I had to pick between the 2. I like Damian Pierce, though, and I like Dalton Schultz. This Texans team got their offensive line back. I think they got 2 pieces last week, so they're much healthier. Pierce is definitely way ahead of Singletary, 15, 20 touches. He'll be low owned. Like so many concentrated running backs, Mostert, Mixon, Chuba. Like if you go to these guys in mid-tier or just get a little different from the chalk, they can be single digit owned or something like that. So I think Pierce, maybe he's 10, 15, but very interesting as a small dog at home. Schultz, tight end, 3.6K. I guess just another reason. You're talking about fans like Logan Thomas. There's just so many of these guys where Dalton Schultz caught a touchdown yesterday. Strauss looked at him a little bit. I just don't know if I can get to Fant for reasons like that. Keep bringing it back to your guy, and I know he's going to bury it. Hope you win a lot of money with him, Tambo.
It'll only be in those games. It needs the other stuff to happen. Get it. Like I said, I'm with you on the other plays. Like that's how I'm building out. That's kind of the same thing with this game for me, and I'll stick with you on the next one. But like our guy Jason asked about Woods have upside now without Dell. It's really hard. But the problem is that like in this stack is the only way I'm really using something like that or a secondary like a Kamara and him. And you're kind of just hoping a combo pack. Like if they can get me there that way, I'd be okay with it. But also $3,800. Like if he gets me 9 to 12, especially higher dollar, smaller field, where I'm mostly focusing, just being full transparency, that's where I would see it more. But you can take those shots. We saw it with I made fun of Tyler Boyd last week at 4,500 for the same thing, and he still did not hit a ceiling. But the touchdown got called back, and he would have been at like 18. So that would have been nice at 4,500. It just happens. Hoop has called it in the past. He owns like 7 Renfro jerseys for something similar, like Renfro, no ceiling until he does. Like that's the thing. So
I should get the jersey just to maybe turn it around for him. I mean, turn around his career. But then if I put the jersey, not today. All right. I'd feel bad if I put it on because then I'd have to play him, and I honestly really don't feel like playing him today. So we'll keep the jersey in the closet.
Dwayne's back too. Good strategy nugget. Like again, if you like that, probably better for the early only. There's a lot going on in these afternoon games that we'll get to shortly. So it'll be another way to hit that. Well, buddy, Neighbors, our guy, love this dude, said hit the like or fall on a spike. That's aggressive. It was hit the like or take a hike, but it is a good reminder. There's almost 500 watching. I'm sure some of you just joined and forgot. So we'll take a second. Hit the like. Takes just that second. It's free to do. When you do that, when we get to 300, is the next $100 giveaway. Title, you're about to take a drink, so Hoop, go to you. Carolina, Miami, the Mostert conversation happens now. Let's talk about Mostert here. $6,400 on DraftKings.
Yeah, he's 8.5 on FanDuel, so I mean the ownership over there should be much lower, but this price tag is it's just much too low. No A chain. Everyone thought, okay, well maybe they'll mix in Jeff Wilson Jr. He's out as well, so it's him, Ahmad, and Chris Brooks. Any big time spot, it's going to be Mostert on the field. He's looked incredible. This offense has looked incredible. They're projected to score 31 points today, which is the highest on the slate. They should absolutely smash the Panthers, who haven't won yet this year, and they're now without Miles Sanders. It's a slam dunk spot for Mostert. He's going to be the highest owned running back on the slate. There are other running back plays, I guess, is the one thing I will say. There's a lot of other running back plays on the slate, so you don't absolutely have to play him. But when you factor in price, you factor in spot, you factor in the total, he's probably the top guy to consider today. But just know he's going to be very highly owned. But it almost appears like a free square situation. Like it just seems like such a lock to do something big, like to get a solid number of fantasy points. So great play. Obviously, Tua to Tyreek, can crush at any point, anytime. Now, people are going to look at this, say 14.5 spread, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Miami is keeping their foot on the pedal, almost through the third quarter every single week. So regardless of if this game turns into a blowout, Tyreek's going to have big opportunity today. Tua is going to have big opportunity today. I do think Jalen Waddle's interesting on DK. They keep this price tag up there, which I like, man. Like they keep it way up there at 7.6. And people just aren't playing him. So you get the, wide receiver 2 in, what's been the best offense probably in the NFL this season at very, very low ownership. So I'm interested in that. On FanDuel, Waddle is down. He's 6.8K. He's going to be popular over there. But I have interest on FanDuel as well. Smythe is a cheap tight end, and I guess one thing to touch on with Tyreek, his ownership is looking relatively low, I'd say, for what we've seen this season. So, you always like that when you can get, Tyreek Hill at relatively low ownership, factoring in the name and whatnot. On the Panthers side, it's obviously tough. They're going to be playing from behind most likely here. No Miles Sanders. Chuba Hubbard at 4.3 is going to be popular. Talk about Foreman when we get to that game. They're basically the same price. I honestly think I prefer Foreman over Hubbard. I kind of like the Bears a little bit here today to win this game. But Hubbard's a good play at 4.3. And then Adam Thielen, they just pepper this guy. He's 5.9 on DK. His game fits DK, scoring really well. FanDuel got him up there. I think he's 7.4 on FanDuel, so he's got to do a little bit more. But at 5.9, man, he's a strong option. So it's just Thielen and Hubbard on this side. Mostert, probably the top running back play. Tyreek for sure. And then Waddle at low ownership on DK. That's kind of how I'm seeing this game.
Yeah, and Ted, I'll let you carry on with it if you have anything else. I will say quickly, someone asked earlier about ways to get different. I think you can pair him with the Miami D. Miami D will still get some love, but I'm saying if you go there, that's one. But I also went a step further in some lineups with all these cheap stacks I'm on today. I jammed Mostert, Hill, and the Miami D all together and just let it round it out. That worked last week, the week before. It's worked like 3 times this season. And the reason you don't always need Tua with it, there's lineups that would look good with Tua in it because he would make, if Tyreek goes, so does Tua. But there is spots where Tyreek can get like 10 catches for 180 and 1, still smash that price tag. And then a $7,600 Tua is just a little bit too expensive, especially if Mostert runs a couple in, the D picks 6. So I think tripling up like that is a way to go about it as just another way to get different in this game. Title, your thoughts, Carolina, Miami, and then we can move on.
Yeah, I think that's totally viable. They are my 3 favorite Dolphins. The defense is the third. And yeah, I mean, they're applied for 30 points. Like if there's not much resistance on the other side, Tyreek gets 1, Mostert gets 1, the Dolphins stuff. I'm totally can see that. Yeah, as far as Mostert, I mean, he's the tied for second most likely to score a touchdown on the slate at -195. Tyreek is -195, and then Kyron Williams leads the slate at -210. Crazy. So Mostert's expected to, or -195. McCaffrey's -180 to score for what, 3,000 more expensive? It's a great play for Mostert. I mean, this offense, they're going to be in the red zone. He's going to have opportunities. He can catch the ball. They're so fast. Like it's tough to get away from them, but like we're talking about, Tambo, there's just so many good running backs on this slate. I'm not going to be having 70% by any means, but I'm also not going to be trying to fade. So if he's coming in around 35%, I probably will be somewhere around there. I'm good playing like that. I know some people aren't, but yeah, it's good chalk. I'll be eating it. Not 100% locked though. Tyreek, though, yeah, at his ownership, like I'll probably be more overweight to Tyreek than I will Mostert, just because that price tag is keeping people off a little. That Chase savings, people like it a lot. Tyreek is going to be owned. There's no question about that. He's not going to be single digits, but 20%, something like that with the upside he has, absolutely bury the slate. Sign me up for Tyreek. The others outside of that, yeah, I think Tua's fine in stacks. I prefer it as the Mostert, Tyreek, Dolphins, mix and match those guys. No thanks really to Smythe. Waddle, I need to see it first. 7,600. Like, you just can't mess up that price tag. I need to see that upside. So I get it. No thanks to me. The Carolina side, yeah, Hubbard's the really interesting one. I prefer him to Foreman. I think ownership will follow. I get Hoop's point as well, though. I feel more secure about his role, whereas Foreman was a DNP, he was scratched. Like, who knows what the heck the Bears are going to do. Still, not a great game script by any means for him. You don't need much, though. 12 points could be enough if it gets you everything you need. So I'll be playing him. Adam Thielen at 5'9". You keep talking about it. He just gets peppered. He gets there in garbage time. They should be trailing and dropping back a lot. I'll keep going back there. Then the last guy I'll mention, Nate's talked about him, though. Jonathan Mingo is a punt. He's going to be very low owned. He's very cheap. And, yeah, talk about little ways to get different. If I'm playing a Mostert, a Tyreek, something, I'll mix in a little Mingo for 3-5. Look at his targets recently. Yeah, 7 last game. 6, 5, 8. So he's been getting mixed in. He can play in the slots. Chark has a pretty tough matchup out there. So I think Mingo, very different. We'll be dropping back a ton. I'll have some interest there in the rookie.
Sounds like a drink or something, like a Mingo. I'll get one of the Mingo Mosterts today, a little secondary stack drink. And just, you could order one up at the beach or something. It definitely sounds like it. But shout out to Captain Zay Flowers, by the way. That was my guy today. So I'd love to see that with Tucker in there and everything that's going on. So we'll see where my lineups are at when we get off this show. And then someone said this. Do you have any comment on Chris Brooks? This is what I'm talking about. And I know you don't love Waddle. I don't either personally, but I see I like him as I get the leverage. Yeah, if you're going to not play Mostert, play somebody else, play Tyreek, Waddle, whatever. I don't really love I think Ahmed, Brooks, those types of plays are what you're doing with the Parham situation. Ahmed 2 touchdowns is like plus 25 to it's a plus 2,500 or something. If you think he's going to steal 2 touchdowns from Mostert and that's going to tilt everybody, I don't think it's going to break the slate in DFS. I think it's going to be like 2 touchdowns from goal line, and you're going to need that. Or go single game parlay over 75 yards for Ahmed and a touchdown and put those together. If you want to do something like that, that's really how I'm looking at it. Like, again, I'm not trying to be the guy that's, but if Mostert fails, let me get this sneaky Chris Brooks play in, because you've got Hubbard, Foreman, Pierce at 51. Like, I know it's a little bit more money we're going up to, but I'm just saying it's you have real plays right there that you could play. If it works for you, then do it. But I don't care about the stuff. Like, you're making a guy that we don't even know if he'll get, what it will look like if it happens. That's like when people are playing for injuries and stuff. That's better on short slates, 2-game slates, showdown, things like that. Then I'm going to play like tonight. Maybe there's backups that you could play. But I'm saying when you're doing it this way on a main slate with 11 games with this many running backs, it's very tough. Oh, it's a 6K chop, he says right now. It's too early anyway. So that's not good, though. But I think it's also a 6K is for the chop. And say it's only 100K today.
Wait, I was going to say 6-way. I wouldn't complain. You're saying 6K? Which one is it?
I wish it said 6-way. It says 6K.
Okay,
and it's early. It doesn't matter. But
yeah.
Let's move on, Title. I'll stay with you. Minnesota, Chicago. We got 5 games left. Got to get to 500 likes, but we're almost at 300. So if you haven't done it yet, hit it. The members will be giving away $100 to a SHIPIT Nation member when we get to 300 likes here. Go ahead, Title. Minnesota, Chicago. What do you got?
Unfortunately, the good old Jets jersey is in the storage for a little bit. So wide receiver room for Minnesota is definitely open. Jordan Addison, my favorite play in this game. KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson, 2 of my favorite, the other favorite plays in this game. And just naturally, if I like 3 pass catchers, again, I guess it's kind of back to the Lawrence situation. This time I will mix in a little Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I'm playing a really cheap Addison at 5'7", an underpriced Osborne at 4'4", Hawkinson at 6'6". Like, tight end, everyone wants to go down the tight end position so bad. If someone does break the slate, you easily can see it being TJ Hawkinson putting up a big one. So Cousins has that 300-yard plus or upside as well. The running room, Akers and Madison, that is not a situation I'll be messing with anytime soon. It's probably going to be close to a split, it looks like, the direction it's heading. But yeah, just no Jefferson out there. So many pieces are underpriced receivers. Addison, the rookie, Osborne, has been out-snapping him. Hawkinson in a tier of his own at tight end, and I will be mixing in a low-owned Cousins in that. So by far prefer the Minnesota side. As far as the Bears, yeah, Deontay Foreman's my favorite. I'll let Hoop talk more about him. Again, I prefer Hubbard in a vacuum, but it's really close, and it's all about who gets the better role. We don't know that answer. Fields is interesting. It feels he's bounced back since throwing his coaches under the bus, since that Chiefs game has really looked good. It's just you can play him naked for sure. I don't love doing that personally, and then it's like, all right, who am I going to pair him with? Cole Kmet's by far my favorite. The price at 4.6 isn't great, but it's right by Evan Ingram. No one's going to play him. You're paying up. Everyone wants to go to the low 3K range if you go that way. So I think Fields Kmet is how I'd approach Fields stacks. And I do like Fields today. So I got to try and figure out how to do that. Like, I don't love Fields Foreman though, because I don't really see that path getting there. So I want you guys to talk more about that too, because I do like this game. I think it's sneaky and it's going to be low owned.
Yeah, I'll let you talk. There was weather talk right early on in this game as well. So I guess that's, the chat mentions it's supposed to be horrible. That's where the value in trying to figure out these running backs came in from the start, where people were looking at that. Does it end up just being Fields that runs over them all day? Is it going to be Foreman or who else? What about the Minnesota side? And then Brandon Powell, the chat asked about as well, 3K wide receiver there too. So Hoop, I'll let you take this one on. Give us your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, in terms of the weather, I mean, I guess I wouldn't use the word horrible. I mean, it's supposed to be windy, 15 to 20, gusts in the 30, kind of similar to that Cleveland game.
I will say it's the third highest total on the slate. Not that 44.5 and 44 are two crazy things, but at the end of the nature of this slate, I'm not overcompensating with the weather.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of games look similar when you start looking at the projected number of points that are going to be scored on each side. The Fields thing, I'm still up in the air what I'm going to do with Fields. Like, I want to play him, but it's like the same hesitation that title kind of laid out. It's like, man, like, you want to pair him with somebody. Who do you pair him with? DJ Moore has gone off, but with these gusts and these winds, that's the one spot where the game could be impacted. It might have to be shorter stuff. So for me, the ideal pairing would be Cole Kmet. And like I said, I'm still kind of deciding what I'm going to do with Fields. I think I like Foreman over Chuba Hubbard. I think the Bears probably win this game. I could see the Vikings really struggling today. First game without Jefferson. He's bailed them out a ton offensively this season. There's been a lot of spots where, Jefferson, they're third and long and they, throw it up to him and, the drive continues because Jefferson made a play. So I do think the Bears win this game. But I am going to have guys on the Minnesota side as well, though. I'm going to have Addison, Osborne, Powell, and then I like Hawkinson. A lot of people are going to go cheap. Hawkinson essentially has been their, wide receiver too, behind Jefferson. He could get absolutely peppered today. But I don't think I am going to play Cousins. So my argument kind of goes against that. And for the reason behind it is I'm not going to be as highly exposed to these pass catchers. I'm not going to have a ton, whereas the Jacksonville guys, I'm going to have a lot of those guys. I'm not going to have as much of these Minnesota guys, but they will be in my player pool: Addison, Osborne, Powell, and Hawkinson. But I think Chicago gets the job done today. So I do like Foreman at the 4.4 price tag.
Yeah, Cousins could be a little demotivated, man. They keep talking about his name in all these trade talks because they only have one more year. Like, the way his contract works out, it would make sense to send him to like an Atlanta they were talking about at the start of the week, give them a real quarterback and set them up better than they are right now with a team that looks pretty good. And maybe if you could get guys like London and Pitts going with a guy like Cousins, we'll have to see. But the Hawkinson thing, I think, is a good point just because it's different, Hoop. It's a guy that you're putting him in. And even if he goes off, it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean Cousins. He could just smash the tight end onesie position with 8 for 100 and maybe even no touchdown. That could just be enough when everyone's playing cheap guys there. You could do the secondary stack with Foreman. I can do Foreman with the Bears D. I don't have a lot of love in these quarterbacks. I did build like one Fields lineup just to see how it looked, and I've got that, but I'm not going to have a good day if Fields breaks the slate. So I will say that. I got a lot more love for the secondary stuff, like a Hawkinson and Foreman was the one I was going with there. So I like that call quite a bit. I do want to talk about this next game, though. Spend some time here for a minute because I'll start it off, actually. Triple revenge. We've got Vegas against the Patriots. It's an ugly total, but we got Josh McDaniels, the coach. Shout out to my guy, Bry Rizzo, who told me about the added piece. You've got Jimmy G and Jacoby Myers. They have Adams. I guess Mac Jones is going to be on a short leash. We'll see what happens there. I know there's a little bit of Jacobs love here today. I don't think it's really going to show out in the ownership. I think he's going to be like 10 to 13%, somewhere in that range. But I don't think anybody else is getting out of control either. So I do like the Jimmy G stacks in this game. Jimmy G, Adams, Myers. You can run it back with a guy like Bourne and just bury your wide receiver spots completely. You could use a Hunter Henry. If you wanted to go to Ramondre Stevenson, our guy Hamwich was liking him on FanDuel, where he's much cheaper, but he hasn't done anything yet. So you'd have to wait and see. But Tyler, I'll go to you on this one. Triple revenge, baby. Raiders at home. What do you like? Anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've been waiting for the Ramondre Stevenson game for a while too. FanDuel keeps baiting that price down there like the good old London. Thankfully, I haven't fallen for it as much as I almost have. But no, I'm with you. I like the Jimmy G stuff. The price tag's easy. And I mean, we just had him on Showdown. It's Jacobs, it's Jacoby Myers, it's Devontae Adams. Throw everybody else out of the equation. Devontae's a complete stud. He's kind of in that Chase range. So he's going to be lower owned than Chase. Still, again, going to be owned. There's no doubt about that. But he'll be lower owned than Jamar, I think. Jacobs, you're spending a little more for the Mosterts and the Mixons of the world. Again, I think he's going to get ownership. He's for sure going to get ownership. No doubt about that. But he also hits all the work. He catches passes out of the backfield. And then Jacoby, a fair price tag right there. We saw his big game on Thursday. I mean, 5.8 for Jacoby, 8.1 for Devontae, 7K for Jacobs, all in different price ranges. I think you play Jimmy G. Jacobs can be in that stack. I wouldn't go all three. I don't like the Jacoby, Devontae, Jacobs, Jimmy G on a slate this big. It'd be more just afternoon stuff. But yeah, I love all of them. Devontae's my favorite, one of my favorite receivers on the slate. Jacoby, great price. Jacobs, great role. On the other side with the Patriots, man, I mean, Mac Jones, he's got to get pulled. Like that short leash might be 2 tries, a couple sacks, doing what he does, and he's going to be out quick. So no thank you to anybody on this side. I think Patriots D is not the craziest thing. I do like the Raiders, but Jimmy G's a statue. If they get pressure, mistakes can be made. So I'll throw them in at low ownership too.
Yeah, I forgot last game too. If you want to go Madison over Addison and also leverage the Foreman ownership, it's definitely a possibility. But like people said, obviously Akers waiting to see if he ever gets used. What's the flow of the game going to be? You're building for something completely different. But if you wanted to leverage it, you could go with Madison with like the Minnesota D as a way to use that and do something different there. But Hoop, let's go to you. This New England Las Vegas game. Any love for you in this one?
I mean, the Patriots side is obviously going to be risky. I mean, talking about pulling their quarterback, and I guess the good thing is there's not many appealing pieces. I will say their pass catchers are cheap. Devontae Parker is 3.5K. Kendrick Bourne is 4.2K. If they're playing from behind and have to pass a lot, those would be my preferred guys on the Patriots side. Maybe whoever the backup is comes in and saves the day, and now their offense is floating along. But for me, yeah, it's just going to be these pass catchers for cheap, not priority type plays. Yeah, and then on the Raiders side, it's straightforward. They have a consolidated offense. Now, the offense hasn't been great. I mean, that's one thing to definitely point out. Their coach is an absolute moron. The guy, he's definitely up there as one of the worst coaches in the NFL, just brain-dead decisions. But in terms of the offense, it's very consolidated. They want it to be a lot of Jacobs. Well, it hasn't worked because he's been really bad this season. The offensive line has been really bad. But if they get a lead, like it's going to be a lot of Jacobs, and they'll give him as much work as he can handle. So I think he's in play, and I agree. Like the ownership, it just can't follow today for Jacobs because there's so many other guys in really, really good spots where it's just not going to follow. I think he comes in lower owned than what everyone's projecting out there for whatever that's worth. Yeah. And then it's going to be Adams, it's going to be Myers, but it's really been one or the other. It hasn't been both. So if you are playing these Jimmy G stacks, it's like I wouldn't double it up. And someone kind of made that comment in the chat. If you guys noticed that the two with the run back haven't been working as much, yeah. So it's kind of been a general thing in the NFL where years ago everyone would stack quarterback, 2 wide receivers, and bring it back. That has not been winning lately, or even last season all that much. So, I mean, that's not something you need to do when building tournament type teams. And for this situation, I don't love Jimmy G either, honestly. Like, I think it's fine. In theory, it kind of makes sense. And I get why you guys are kind of liking it. But for me, it's like, he's got to beat a lot of guys. There are a lot of good, cheapish type quarterbacks. I just don't know if he can get there. Like I said, it's been one or the other. So it's been Adams having the big game where, Jimmy G's 200 yards maybe and a touchdown. Well, it's good enough for Adams or Myers to get there. He hasn't had the big games. I don't know if it's going to come today. So it'll be Jacobs individually, Adams individually, and Myers individually for me on the Raiders. So the one thing I will say, they really got this Michael Mayer guy involved a lot last game, and he's only 2.5K. He was out there a lot, and it looked like they were kind of running plays to like get him involved. So he's kind of a flyer tight end play in large field stuff.
Almost Halloween too, Michael Myers. Maybe that's what they're getting ready for.
But
I don't hate the comment there, but I think that's the kind of the angle though. You could just like, for example, here's a great build. I think Jimmy G, Devontae Adams, Kendrick Bourne, or your choice on the other side, cut it off, and then use Mixon and or Higgins. Because what I'm saying is I'm using Adams over $8,300 Chase.
Yeah.
If Adams has a huge day, it likely attaches to Jimmy G at his price tag having a good or fair day. And then on top of it, you would now plug in the leverage to Chase, who would be like Mixon or a Higgins or something like that. So I definitely don't mind that. I like this one as well. Could double tight end work? I think double tight end works today, actually, because if you want to spend up and get different, there is options to go to there. I would say that. Another Tucker field goal, so we're not missing much there. Title, go back to you. Third last game, almost about to hit 300 likes, Hoop. If you could find a member for the next $100 giveaway, because we're giving that one away no matter what. We got to get a lot more likes in, though, in these last 3 games with over 500, almost 550 watching. Now, title, Arizona, LA Rams. What do you got? 48 total as of now. Looks like the biggest on the slate it moved to.
Yeah, the Rams are one of the best spots of the night. You got Stafford, who's great price tag. He got his boy Cooper Kupp back, and Cooper Kupp looked like he never left. Puka's still an absolute monster. Kyren Williams has a good price tag. Like, this offense is going to be a problem for sure. You get a great matchup. You're in a dome, one of the highest team totals on the slate behind the Dolphins. Yeah, so Kyren Williams, I mentioned, crazy. If someone told you in week 6, Kyren Williams would lead the slate, a main slate with a touchdown prop, McCaffrey, Tyreek, all of that, it's Kyren Williams. And it's hard to blame him. I mean, they're going to move the ball. They're going to be in the red zone. He can catch passes out of the backfield. I love this price for Kyren, and I'm all in on Cooper Kupp for sure. I saw all I needed to on the first drive last week to know, yeah, this man is back. As good as Puka is, Randy Moss Jr., all of that. When it's at the end of the day, 3rd and 5, whatever it may be, Kupp is the number one read. Sign me up for Kupp. Way better price on FanDuel. Ownership will follow, though. So it's not going to be low owned on DK. We have the money, though, with cheap running backs and stuff. Kupp will be one of my guys, no doubt about that. Outside of Kupp and Kyren, who are by far my favorite plays, I think Puka's fine at 8K, but I much prefer that 1,000 with Kupp. Higbee in Stafford stacks being way different, but man, he just keeps falling down the depth chart with all these healthy guys. So yeah, mainly just Stafford, Kupp, Williams, my favorites on the Rams. As far as Arizona, Hollywood Brown, the price doesn't move, and the dude, he shows questionable. There's an illness. He's expected to play maybe a couple 1% less than he would be or something like that. But great game script. Dobbs looks at him a lot. Deep play, big play guy. Like, I'm going to keep going back to Hollywood in stacks or in the run back in this game that I like. And Ertz is the other one, 3.6K. Cheap tight ends who get peppered with targets. The story of this slate. That's why Hawkinson, we keep saying, way different than the rest, way different build, because everyone's either going to go Ingram or very cheap, and Ertz is one of those guys. But yeah, it's Kupp day, man.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. And the way if I am going here when I stack it up, or I should say when the spots I'm going here, I like what you said there, but I also like getting Kyren Williams back in the mix via the pass. I know it's tougher, but with the price, it works. Where you can go like Stafford, Kyren Williams, and Kupp, and then it's like a cheap Ertz on the other side just to fit the stack, or a Marquise Brown who's much lower price on DraftKings than FanDuel to make it all work. And maybe this is the overstack spot. It's not like it's sneaky. People are getting there, but people are thinking this one where like, Hoop, I'll go to you on this, but same as like the Detroit week, where this is the one where people keep thinking like, do I go to this guy or this guy? Do I go this route or this route? Should I play it this way or that way? And the answer might just be play them all, right? This is, again, the biggest total. It's definitely very stackable from both the Dobbs side and the Stafford side, I think. So I like this game quite a bit. The total's there. What's your thoughts on this one before we go to the final 2 games after this?
I mean, I literally have the exact same talking points as title. I mean, he went through the game, and that's literally exactly what I was going to say. Kyren Williams, I looked up the touchdown props today. He's sitting at minus 210 on DK. That's the highest on the slate. And you like that. You definitely like that. And, you know, it's not like he's going to be 40% owned or anything. There's so many running back plays. That stood out to me for sure. Cooper Kupp, phenomenal play. And I mean, literally exactly what Title said. I saw all I needed to see on that first drive last week. I mean, I was literally going to say the exact same thing Title said in regards to this game because, man, everyone was wondering, like, is he 100%? What sort of role is he going to have? All questions were answered immediately with Cooper Kupp, like immediately. And the price is, I think, fair. And 9K and then 87 on FanDuel, a little bit of Puka, maybe some Tutu, and then Higbee, just because tight end sucks, especially if you're stacking Stafford, throw him in the mix. And then you have Marquise Brown, you have Zach Ertz on the other side. And then if you want, maybe Michael Wilson, who had that big game. So really the same thing Title said. I mean, it's a really good spot. It's a really good spot for this Rams offense. You like to see trends. You like to see things trending in the right direction. This offense is trending in the right direction. Vegas has obviously taken notice. They have one of the highest team totals on this slate. So I think it's a really good spot for the Rams and their offense. And this could be one of those games where people say, okay, the Rams offense, might be for real now that their guys are back.
Yeah, Noah had it pegged. That's kind of what I was saying. You can go to Hollywood or Ertz there, I think. There was one other thing. Well, you grab that winner hoop. I just have one more quick thing I was going to say. This is another thing, Brandon. I'm a nicer version of Pat on this one. You've been asked like the whole, if you would want to play Kenneth Walker today, play it. Like that's what you have to do. If we don't mention it though, we probably don't love it. So like if you're trying to make it work and it's a gut feel, stick with your gut. It's your money. We highly recommend that you play the plays you want to play. There's no need for confirmation bias. Just go to them. We like Lockett. We like JSN. I like Fance. Like we're naming other guys. If you like Walker, I always suggest in your single entries, whatever it might be, play him because you're going to regret it if you don't. That's what I'll say. I'll be nice. I'm not as angry, but I do think it's funny. Like people try and jam these plays. If you want to play them, roll them out there. Oop, what do you got, man? $100 winner. Who's the winner?
Oh, the $100
should be
winner.
Nick. He's not. Sorry, Nick, but I called my shot earlier. I think that's a good call.
Well, hey, Nick, I got something for you. If Tambo does win the million, I'm willing to bet that he'll toss you a hundo. How about that? When he wins it
more
today,
than a hundo. If you got
there you go, more than a hundo. You call it but yeah, it's going to a member. It's going to our guy Kegger. He's been very active in the chat this morning. So our guy Kegger is going to win that $100.
Congrats, Kegger. You know where to reach out. Hit Hoop up for his wallet. I'm going to stick with you, Hoop. Detroit at Tampa Bay. You love your Lions. This is a spot. They're actually favored on the road here going into Tampa, but there's some options here. I think the chat was asking earlier about Amon-Ra St. Brown. I said we get there in a second. We'll see, but I think he's healthy and fine. I definitely think he's good to roll. But what's your thoughts on this one? Second last game of the slate.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this spot is one of those game stack spots where no one's going to be on this one. Like no one's going to be on it at all. It's a pretty wide open slate in terms of, do we have a shootout type of game? There's not, much that stands out. You're getting a bunch of low-owned pieces and two offenses where it's going to come from. David Montgomery, obviously in play here. I mean, you love to hear what Dan Campbell said about him. Like he's our guy. He's our workhorse. We're going to give him the carries. And that's been the case all season. And now Gibbs is out as well. So Montgomery is a great player regardless. But all these other pieces are going to be low-owned. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, who popped up on the injury report, he is expected to play. Then you have Evans and Godwin on the other side. If you're playing this game, you should have both sides of it. You should have Lions guys. You should have Bucks guys as well. Hope you get the back and forth because it's going to be low-owned all around outside of David Montgomery. For me personally, I don't know if I'll get there. I probably won't because I just like some of these other spots better. But if you are playing this game, I prefer to kind of go in heavy and make sure you have pieces of both sides, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that call. And that's kind of how I see it. I like the Montgomery play quite a bit here still, just based on workload, the Gibbs factor being out, not that he even really mattered before. So to me, that's fine. The price bump isn't enough. I know some are scared of the matchup, and that's fine. I'm playing on opportunity. And the price tag is still, for me, fine because, like you said, they just jam him so often. I'm not sure where he shows up title in the odds. I didn't look it up yet to see where he falls on that anytime touchdown odds, but he's been in the box a lot this season, so he should be somewhere up there in the mix. I know you got to pay for it, but what's your thoughts, title, on this game, Detroit, Tampa Bay?
So I love Montgomery. He's by far my favorite play, but that Baker price tag and just knowing there's Mike Evans, knowing Godwin, seeing the ownership, I need you guys to either talk me out of it or confirm that there's some interest. Because
I got one for you. For half the price, you can get the defense against him to absolutely dominate and just put that into your David Montgomery lineups and pair that puppy up, and you should be in good shape.
I got some of that too. Yeah, so you guys aren't on as much. I'll be lying if I won't have a little bit of Baker. Coming off a bye week, like the Mike Evans, the Godwin, it's a concentrated targets. Mike Evans has that 200 plus yards, this and that, but he's going to be low owned. You can jam in chalk, and I really love David Montgomery. So just very easy. Lions get up 14 quick. You get Montgomery, and then you get a little skinny stack or something like that on the other side. So yeah, it's one of those vomit stacks. People, I'm not recommending it to those people out there for Baker, but in my 150 teams and stuff, I'm going to have some Baker and Mike Evans stacks. But I like the Lions D with Montgomery combo as well, like you mentioned. I think Bucks D is interesting too at very low ownership.
I will say too, I do like the one thing you said. Like one thing for me is I like Godwin doesn't need Baker to go off. Like Godwin can get you 8 for 110 and a touchdown, and you still don't end up needing Baker, and Godwin crushes. So I like Montgomery with Godwin probably for a secondary stack the most. We're still waiting. I know it was like 20 minutes or half an hour ago. I saw a Laporta piece pop up saying they're still expecting that he'll play. So we'll see that one. But I also think Amon-Ra at 7,800 is going to go overlooked here in the sense that people are still worried a little bit about his health. I'm seeing, like 5 to 8% ownership. Like that's a guy at 7,800 that you could absolutely play instead of Montgomery, even though I like Montgomery quite a bit. I'm just saying, I think that is definitely something to think about. Hoop? Anything else on this one?
No, I'm good.
Oh, I thought you were muted and you were going to add on to Title's points. I know you started us off on this game, but I wasn't sure if you had any more.
No, I'm good. I agree with the points. Like Godwin, for sure, he doesn't need Baker to get there. I mean, yeah, I agree with the points. But like I said, if you are, just to reiterate my point, if you're in on this game, I think you take a few pieces because it's all going to be low owned, and where everyone's going, or where a lot of the offensive production is coming from.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And then, Hoop, I'm going to stay with you. It's the last game. You talked at the top of the show about the Hurts factor. We talked about DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner being out for the Jets side. We've got Darius Slay out for the Philly side and some others. So, I mean, there's opportunity here for a bit of a back and forth. But I think the Hurts side is obviously the better side. What do you got with this one, Hoop? Hurts and who else?
Yeah, I really like the Hurts stuff. Kind of talked about it in the opening. It's gotten better, obviously, because with Gardner out and the other guy out, he is the most expensive quarterback on DraftKings. That's going to keep his ownership down because a lot of people are saving money at the positions. We have a lot of cheap guys. So paying up to be contrarian, I think, is in play here. Jalen Hurts has the ability to nuke any slate regardless of the matchup. All his pieces that you would pair him with, low-owned, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, all low-owned. Goddard got there last week, and I think they continue to feed this guy. Like, it just makes sense. So I like Goddard at the tight end position. A.J. Brown as a pivot off of guys like, Chase, Jamar Chase, who will be popular. And then Devonta Smith, the floor is super, super low, but he has big upside. I want a little bit of him at low ownership too. So the Hurt stuff is very appealing to me because you're getting one of the best offenses in football in a pretty good spot on a slate where scoring might be somewhat limited, all at really low ownership. So I'm in on the Hurt stuff in a big way. On the Jets side, I don't know, man. Maybe some Allen Lazard or you throw Conklin in there. I just don't want to play the Jets, to be honest with you. So it's going to be the Eagles side, and I like it a lot. I mean, again, just to reiterate my point, you're getting one of the top offenses in football at everyone's single-digit ownership. Like, sign me up for sure.
Yeah, they can put up all the points too, and that's the other thing. And Title, I want to go to you on this one because Swift, 6,100, it's a heavy day at running back. There's lots of options, but man, he's just continued. I never play him, but this week I've got a little because it's just continued. 28, and I know it went down, but this is where people get confused. Like, he can still get there on these touches. He's getting 16, 14, 17. His targets have actually went up 2, 4. Last week was 6. Like, these opportunities are there. Not as many touchdowns as you'd think, but this is the Miles Sanders effect from last year when you've got Hurts there and the tush push and all these other factors. But man, 6,100 seems pretty fair. I do like the passing game more. And because there's options on both sides, I think you can run it back with Garrett Wilson. If you want to run it back, you don't even have to. This is one of those spots, like somebody mentioned earlier, when you can just play Philly guys and no Jets. But I'm just giving you examples. What are you doing here with this game, last game of the slate, before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'm actually different than you guys. I don't really like this game much, and my favorite plays are the running backs. DeAndre Swift's my favorite, and Breece Hall is my favorite Jet on the other side. no one's going to play Breece Hall. Awful game script, all of that. But we do know, I mean, one play, 80 yards, touchdown. There he goes. He gets you 17 and the game script's then in your favor. So right in that range, everyone's going to go elsewhere. The running backs are my plays in this game to get different. I hope the Eagles jump out early. They're up 14. They don't need Hurts and all that to sling it as much. And a lot of it's just like the price of AJ Brown, the price of Devontae Smith, the price of Dallas Goedert. I get all of it for sure, but I prefer Devontae. I prefer Chase. I prefer Kupp to all of them. Tight end position, I like Hawkinson, or I like saving a little bit. So just for their price and stuff, I prefer the running game. I also think Zach Wilson's so bad, so I don't think they can really keep up and force the Eagles to sling it like that. So that's the main thing for me. But Eagles defense, they got to pay up for him a little bit too. But man, it could get ugly for Zach.
Yeah, 3,800 and right underneath the Miami, right above the Miami, right below the San Francisco D, where I think most are going if they're paying up. So I don't hate that. Love the different perspective. We can give new ones a try. He broke the internet on us and the cameras and all this stuff last time, but we're at the end of the show anyway. So if it fails, so be it. Smart, very, very sharp guy. Newens is our guy. So he says, looking back at the perfect lineups on Line Star, every single one has a wide receiver in flex. This season, I've been only playing it that way, and it's been working out. But what do you think about that, Hoop? I'll go to you on this. His question is really good at the end. Is based on all those running backs on this slate. What do you think about it when it comes to that? Oh.
On the mute. I was one guy. I clicked it, but it didn't unclick. So I must have misclicked. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people end up playing running back in the flex today, just because there's so many of these good running back plays. And yeah, exactly. So if you go wide receiver, I think your teams will be just like a little bit different because of that reason. There's so many good running back plays. Naturally, even if you don't force it in, you're going to get running backs there. So one way to be different, I would say today, is to play a wide receiver there.
Yeah, I definitely think you can get away with that today. He said game has changed the past few years. I think it has the highest ceiling, even if it's not a stud in the flex. We talk about this in Showdown all the time too, where people are still, always jamming quarterbacks. It's kind of slate by slate, obviously, but a lot of the time, I'm always playing these wide receivers up top because they can just get there so much faster. And sometimes it's a tight end or something, but pass catchers for sure. So definitely think of it from that perspective. The high end pass catchers, the Mark Andrews, the Hawkinsons, the Kelseys, Goddards, those guys count for tight ends, but for the wide receivers, definitely. Title, any thoughts on that? If not, give us your final thoughts on this slate before we get out of here. I've got the random winner for the final $100. So go ahead, give us final thoughts on this slate, Title.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's a Jordan's thing. I mean, we've been on that. Jordan's been following us for a while. So the receiver and the flex, definitely ahead of the curve on that. But it's all like, you can't look at every slate the first 5 weeks and compare them because we haven't had a Deontay Foreman. We haven't had a Chuba Hubbard. Wide receiver is, it chains out to Mostert and Mixon. Like, there's underpriced running backs on this slate, whereas a lot of the weeks, receiver felt stronger. So, and you can definitely still play receiver in the flex, though. There's just more ceiling and upside because they're on the field more nowadays with how people aren't getting 100% of running back snaps. Receivers are out there almost 100% of the time. DK full point PPR. They use Chase and Devontae. Like, they throw it in the flat. It's a run play essentially to get 5 yards. You get 1-5. So that's the explanation of why the game has changed with receiver. As far as comparing slates, it's tough. Yeah, no, it was fun talking through all these, and it's a tough slate. The more we go through it, like, you guys are on the Hurts side. Like, I'm not as much. Baker, this. A lot of people see comments on it. Like, I like how you guys disagree, have your own thoughts. That's why Tambo, Hoop, and I aren't talking all Saturday or before the show Sunday for an hour and getting our thoughts. Like, that's not how we go about it. We all do our own research, play our own stuff. And I incorporate things you guys say and stuff and mess around. So, yeah, the next hour 45 on Sunday, I always say, it's the most stressful time. But once 10 hits my side, 1 Eastern over there, hang out with the boys, enjoy some football. But, yeah, everything will be up and updates in yellow as always.
Yeah, I love what you said there, too. That's definitely – we don't put our stuff together. Full transparency as we always are. And someone said, like, love what you do, love the site, all this. Yeah, if you like our free stuff, you'll love the paid stuff because it's not just our takes and our plays and our cores. You will get projections, ownership, education courses where we put a lot of time into them to make them the best possible to make you actually become a better player. But it's just like anything else. Like, people always talk about it. We're trying to put together the best community where it has the best price that you guys can get on everything possible so that you get everything you need to have success with DFS. And we don't stop. Throughout the week when you don't see us on these shows, we're behind the scenes working on other stuff to get the next stages ready. So if you're already a member, you're going to enjoy what's soon to come. If you're not a member, now's the time to get signed up. Go to SHIPITNation.com. use promo code Mayo. You can get in for as little as $19 if you just want to try it. And then you'll be able to carry it over to get a deal on the setup after that. But give it a shot. Try us out today. Go to shipitnation.com. Use the promo code Mayo. Hoop, final thoughts on this slate before I get us out of here.
Yeah, another fun slate. A lot of plays. I mean, a lot of different ways to go. A lot of plays at basically every position. Feeling good where I'm at, and you guys as well. And all our content is up. It will be updated if there's any changes. I'm making my final changes to the player pool as I go through and kind of finalize my teams. Let's have a big day today. How about that? Let's get some big wins. Let's get some big boy wins today. I think it's coming for us.
Yes, Stewie, we talked about this a little bit earlier. You can definitely play some double tight ends in the spots that you like them. It's just there's so many options today with running back and wide receiver. It's probably not the best day for it, but I think within game stacks is where I would see it. If you want to Komet Hawkinson, a Fant, Irv Smith, something, if you're going to go in a game stack and Ertz Higbee, not saying we love all these plays, but to say if you were going there, that's how I would go about it. The winner of the final $100, this is a random comment from, but I got to give my guy Steven Neighbors $100. Said it was his birthday on Friday the 13th. Always a big supporter. Love to see him in here. So hit me up. If you're in the Discord, you can hit me up there. If not, info@shipitnation.com. That's going to do it for this one, guys. For Hoop, for Title, for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.